I just want to speak a little bit more about why necessary is not the right word, but why I like doing these. And it was an insight that I had here recently that before you choose to go out on an achievement, a goal or task or anything like that, that you develop in the mind, that you create, that it is actually possible that the feeling you think that action is going to give at the end. So if it's write a book, if it's, start a company or whatever the case may be, and in doing this, I'm going to get, I'll feel good at the end once it's done. I just saw here recently that the feeling I think I'm going to get, or that I will get, either way, is actually present though before I start. So the thing I'm looking for when I write my book to feel at the end of my book being published and out to the world is actually possible to start at the beginning. It's actually possible to have that feeling before I write the book. And that is why I do this, because I want people to understand, or I would love for people to understand, that gratitude can start your day and be strong enough in a sense to ride you through the entire part of it, no matter the situation. Doesn't mean there aren't going to be sad times or things like that, but the place of gratitude, the place of humbleness, of remembering that we awaken to this understanding and do have a totally different experience of life, or one of my favorite books, A Second Chance, at it. It's just a different way to remind us of that. It's just a different way to remind us of that. And that's why I love it. Some of the stories that were, some of the letters that were shared last week from like Joe and Greg, it was just a beautiful thing. And I also want to combine them together. Last month was volume 1. This is volume 2. We're going to do a volume 3, probably a volume 4. And then for those who will be okay with it, I'm going to have them send me their letters and we're going to bind them. We're going to put them out as a book of gratitude. And let people just read through how amazing this understanding has helped change the lives, even from a majority of people who've been on this call who have never been in a room with Sydney Banks. And I think that's just fascinating by itself. And that's what we're doing. And I wanted to dedicate today's particular volume to one of my favorite quotes by Speed. And the reason it's one of my favorites is because it took me the longest to understand this. This is the only time I've ever been frustrated with Sid and his message, and it's because I didn't understand the words. In The Second Chance, he dedicates the book. He says, "To humanity, in the hopes that this book may help alleviate some of the needless suffering." So when I heard that, the first thing I thought was, Sid, why would you minimize my suffering? That's how I heard it, as if he was minimizing the pain that I had been through and things like that. And through mentorship, guidance, and just sitting on this alone and continually to look in this place of truth, it hit me that, oh, the word needless was not trying to alleviate my feelings or anything like that. It was just allowing me to see, or making me aware, that my suffering was optional. I didn't have to suffer. This understanding gives us that ability, that we don't have to suffer. And so I wanted to dedicate today's call to humanity, and the hopes that these letters can help alleviate some of the suffering that humans experience. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you all. How it goes is you simply raise your hand and we'll go in the order that they come of reading the stories or reading your letter. And after we finish, everybody, if there's time left and there's a conversation that wants to be had, we can have it. And if not, staying in tradition of how Sid loved to do things, is once there's nothing else to be said, we don't say anything. We take that feeling into our days and we go. So today will be totally up to us. But I really just wanted to start with that and to show you how much I appreciate you for being here from wherever part of the world you're at. And without further ado, I'm ready to hear some letters. Joe, that's your cue, Joe. Joe, that's where you come in at, Joe.
Me first then. I didn't want to jump in again. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, right. Dear Sid, I write this letter to thank you for being the spark that had ignited the many realizations that have revolutionized my perception of myself and the world. Thank you for showing me the way to seeing that all my perceived issues are caused by my personal use of the principles rather than outside circumstances or conditions. This was a monumental shift that allowed me to break free from the mental prison I had encased my mind within. I saw that the only restrictions and boundaries in life are the illusionary ones created by the misunderstanding of how the personal mind works. I know now that I have the choice whether to believe the thoughts that arise or see them as just passing phenomena that have no meaning other than the meaning I place upon them. Thank you for relaying the message that we are so much more than the limitations of our physical body and life story. Taking the blinkers off and seeing past all the stories and beliefs in my mind allowed me to see the beauty and wonder in the world and within humanity that was right in front of my nose the whole time. Once the mind quietens, I'm able to feel the inherent connection between everything and the infinite energy we all are that can never be harmed, become anxious or depressed, and can never die. This demonstrates that whatever happens to us in the physical world, we are all still fundamentally at our core, okay and perfect, and nothing can change that. If we keep faith in our true selves, with a sprinkle of patience thrown in, we can again hear the call from within and be guided by mind to reach our divine potential. Thank you for the understanding that each person lives in their own separate reality and that they perceive the world in their own unique way, allowing me to know that it is okay to have differing views and ideas. This helped me to become accepting and tolerant of each person's perspective of the world. I no longer need to take the views of others personally or see them as a reflection on me, but instead see these views as just what appears true to that person. In this way, I can see the innocence in everyone's actions and opinions, in that they are acting from what looks real to them in that moment, and no different. For me, this is true forgiveness that goes beyond an ideology or concept. Thank you for telling your story and showing that we need not fear death as we go home and see who we really are. This was a game changer for me, as I need not fear death, and we need not fear anything, especially our thoughts and feelings. I thank you again for all the sacrifices you made to share your message and the profound message of hope and healing it has brought to myself and the rest of humanity. You were and still are a shining light in what at times can seem a dark world. Your message emanates hope that eventually each soul walking on this earth can awaken to their true nature and work together to create a fair and just society that is inclusive and caring for all. I'm sure wherever you are now, every entity or spiritual being is in fits of laughter at your famous Scottish wit. And even though this world is poorer, that you are no longer here in your physical self, your legacy continues to live on. Lots of love, Joe.
Beautiful, Joe. Thank you. And so basically how it works is you unmute and go into your letter. And if we talk over, we just apologize and rock, paper, scissors on who go next. It's no worries.
I read mine last time, Rob, but I'll read it again if you want. It's Greg. Dear Mr. Sidney Banks, when the opportunity to write a letter to you came to my attention, I knew instantly that I wanted to do it. So here goes. The year 2022 has just begun, and I'm just shy of 1 year into my journey with the three principles. This is also the year that I'll be turning 50, which means that I'm off to a late start, but better late than never. I can honestly say that this past year has been the most fulfilling year of my life, full of connection, learning, exploring, reinventing, and insight. Did I mention learning? There's been lots of learning. Through training programs and other 3P community events, I've had the pleasure of connecting with people all over the world, easily covering more than 10 different countries, and all from the comfort of my own desk in Mississauga, Canada. What I've noticed is that we're all the same. We are one. It's a testament to the power of connection that thousands of miles apart on a Zoom call, we can feel each other's love and kindness. There are a few specific things I'd like to convey to you with this letter. Firstly, the three principles are in good hands. I've had the honor of listening to recordings and attending live calls with some of the amazing people that trained with you directly. Their generosity, wisdom, and love are overwhelming. You taught them well. Best of all, these folks are mentoring the next generation of practitioners and coaches who will be carrying the mantle well into the future. Second, which you already know, dramatic pause, we're all okay. Despite a global pandemic, political divisions, climate, and economic crises, we're managing just fine. It might be fair to say that the world needs the three principles now more than ever, although I think that's a little biased, as God knows history is full of hard times. The good news is there are thousands of us awakening and learning so we can coach, teach, share, and live by example. Lastly, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your experiences with the world. My marriage, my relationships with my kids, with my dad, with my family and friends, and even with my dog are all deepening with every day that I'm looking in this direction. With sincere love and gratitude, Greg Fisher.
Thank you, Greg. Me too. I was just rubbing my dog yesterday, like, man, I really love you now. Like, and if you didn't write out a letter, I will open it to give you an opportunity just to express your gratitude for this understanding, if you would like as well. I'll pull mine up too for those who weren't here last time. Here it is. Here's it. It's me, Rob. I feel like I do know you actually because of the love I feel from those you've taught and mentored. Also, I feel like I know you because of the feeling behind the words when I hear you. I knew because of one thing, it's new because of one thing is the understanding of truth that you have pointed us to in a way that you gave us to articulate. Thank you. I love you. I feel like oh, wait. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm fairly new to the principles, but I believe I've seen things that have radically changed my life. Like, for instance, I'm no longer afraid of my experience. Really, Sid. In 2014, 2015, I was facing some of the darkest times of my life. I attempted to read every book out there in hopes to be fixed, or to at least be put together in a manner that I could fit and could be considered functional. I searched and searched and searched, but I wasn't really calling it a search. Not knowing I felt there was something more to life, I just knew it. That stayed into my life until I met a man named Michael Neal. Now, you've never met Michael, but he's my mentor. He's a 3P coach and practitioner that shares the inside out understanding as well. He woke up my heart. I've lived so much in my head that I was unaware living in the heart could really exist. For me, it was immediately true, and it allowed me to see things very quickly. One, I wasn't broken. And two, that I was actually connected to real-time mind, the creative energy behind all life form. Wow. I'll admit, it scared me at first, but I also knew it was true. I didn't know what to do for a while. I wanted to hold on to some of my old beliefs, in which I knew they didn't do me any good, but it was because I understood them and I knew them. My experiences were connected to them, and I wanted to drag those old beliefs into everything. But now I couldn't, though. It was something about the freshness, the authenticity, the compassion, the love I felt when I was in this conversation. I even learned that anything is possible, Sid, and that all of the limiting factors of my life were created by my thoughts. It was like being handed the key to life, and I'm very thankful to you for that. I realized I didn't mention, but Michael Neal was a result of people like George Pransky, others who have studied with you, and the sharing of the understanding. I share that, Sid, because I spent a lot of times with those who you mentored who said you often wondered how the principals would fare after you physically left us. Now I don't understand what happens on the other side of physical death. So if you can't see, I'd like to report that it's just fine. The state of the community is great. Since you've passed it, the three principles are global. Yes, mind, thought, and consciousness as of today, January 28th, but now we'll say February 25th. As of today, it's being taught all over the world. Those that learn closest from you are referred to today as first generation, and see it, they're kicking butt. They're some of the kindest teachers, facilitators, and most importantly, human beings you'll find on earth. So there's no signs that anyone is stopping from helping humanity in their needless suffering, as you mentioned in the book, Second Chance. I'm actually reading this letter aloud right now in a room of people, some of whom I met before and some of whom I haven't. There will be others to read letters as well, and some to just listen and rest in this feeling that is present. It really comes from a place, everyone comes from all places, all walks of life, but we're here together expressing our love for this understanding. That's what this has done. Thank you, sir, for pointing us to the truth about our human experience. One love, one team, one vision to end human suffering. I love you, Sid. Rob. If there aren't any more letters to be read from those who didn't have a letter, would you be up for sharing your first experience of hearing this understanding as a sign of, you know, gratitude or whatever, or what it did for you? If you would like to share that, we'd love to hear that as well. But again, it's just all about a love for what you're able to see as a result of mind, consciousness, and thought.
I wouldn't mind sharing my experience and the way I've discovered and fallen into
I would love to hear it.
all the way in, as I said, in Indonesia, and the way I'm slowly starting to bring it to a community here in Indonesia in a slightly different way. It's like I approached it from initially just wanting to help people and see people to discover life in a different way, that it's not just about you striving to be better than somebody else, but just striving to be the best you can be in what it is that you are the best. And so all my development is all coming off of teaching people in Indonesia here, teaching people English. So I'm teaching people English, and I'm teaching them self-reliance and self-confidence. And this is mostly self-confidence as far as the use of English is concerned, in whatever level. It could be for marketing, it could be for presentations, it could be for studies, and so on and so forth. And in general here, I mean, the Indonesians in general, the English that they've learned is quite decent, quite high. But the thing is, about 90% of all the students I deal with, they just have a lack of self-confidence. And through that way, I feel that SIT's teaching are so fitting and matching to what it is that they require. Because all I try to tell them is, don't try to be perfect. Don't try to speak without an accent. The accent is you. You're Indonesian, you have an accent, it's normal. Okay, you might want to speak English with a slightly different intonation and vocabulary and things like that. That's fine. But the thing is, don't lose your accent. Just be aware of what it is that you need to add and what you need to fine tune on what it is that you're doing. And at the same time, I'm also showing it's like you don't need to be stuck or suffering because of the thoughts that you have in your own mind. I mean, they are just things which are buzzing around your head, which so easily can just be put aside because they actually have no existence. It's sometimes it's to you, it just feels and looks totally real. But if you think about it, all these stresses and frustrations are just in your mind. So see these things, these horrible buzzing flies that buzz inside your head, put them aside and just shove them away because they are just imagination, and they're just imagination pushing you towards an unwanted destination with no purpose. And if you really think about it, you will realize it is just thought. It is nothing more than thought, and these are the thoughts which are not helpful. These are the thoughts which are just kind of unwanted, shooting by, passing through, and things like that, and just crashing into your direction and just taking you out of your course. So put them aside and just move forward in the direction where you want to go and believe, trust yourself, believe the road you're walking at, and go that way. Just don't question it, just believe it. I think that's my words for today.
And we appreciate it. And it's interesting you say it because I just saw that experience real life yesterday. I do a program with a youth detention facility in Portland, Oregon. And yesterday was our third iteration into it, and we were expressing the nature of thought. And so one of the things we do is the prison will allow us to use Play-Doh because, can't make a weapon out of Play-Doh, right? But what happened was yesterday when they were walking in, I had their unit facilitator give them the Play-Doh. And of course, you see a couple guys look at it like, what the hell are we going to do with Play-Doh, and then you kind of see it. And so we go through the curriculum as we do, and then it's time to create. And when we got to see what they created, one guy did a brain, one guy did a heart, and one guy did a book. That's what they created. And so when I asked them, what was going through your mind when you first saw the Play-Doh and then when it was time to create? And of course, they were like, what are we doing? This doesn't make sense, da-da-da. And then it got to, all right, it's time to create. They all said, they thought, well, I'm not a creative person. I don't know what I'm going to do. And this one kid says, yeah, I said I'm not a creative person. But then immediately after that, I was like, but that ain't not the objective. Just create something. And I was like, there it is. You see how quickly you dismiss the thought that you're not? And then you created something that was super cool. And he was like, yeah. I was like, that's it. That's all we're here talking about, is how quickly you recognize that that thought had nothing to do with what you can create with this Play-Doh. And he was just like, huh. So similar to what you're saying, just get past that noise. Just get past that noise because it really doesn't matter. So thank you. Thank you for that share.
Hi, Rob, Alistair.
Hey, Alistair, how you doing? I saw the wheels turning. I saw the wheels turning.
Yeah, that's the problem. No, so like I had Greg and Joe and Rob, your letters are heartwarming. Definitely, I can relate to a lot of the things you said in your letters. And next session, I promise I will have a letter. And I, like Greg, I think I've been involved with the principals around about a year. accidentally came across them. But I accidentally came across them from a guy that tried to introduce them to me for 10 years ago. So he actually said, but Alistair, you have the Michael Neal book, Inside Out Revolution. I'm like, do I? Yeah, I gave it to you. So I suggest you find it, read it, and we'll take another discussion. So, I mean, version 1 of me was, I've always been struggling with, my ego's been struggling against the conditioning, right? So we have a lot of people there saying, you're not going to amount to anything. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to do this. You're this, you're that. Bullying, both within schools, but within the workplace also. And then my ego was trying to fight against it, say, no, I will, I am. And I was always chasing the next thing and feeling empty and chasing again and feeling empty and chasing again and feeling empty. I was really in that wheel, And then the pandemic came, just like the States, Sweden, everywhere around the world, it hit us hard, and it hit our industry hard. And I had a conversation with a guy and saying, there must be something we can do. And I just got this huge, I just got something inside of me that just came out, that there's so many people just walking around in their own heads. And that's how I explained it. They're walking around with fear in their heads. And there must be a way to relieve it. And that's when the guy, I think you know him, Rob Kenny from Sweden, he said, yeah, there is, you're right. There's something we can do. And that's how we got into it. So I'm so version 2, I'm taking it easy and looking forward for new insights as they come along. I have small insights along the way. I haven't had this huge insight yet, which some analytical part of me is saying, damn, you need to get that big insight. But it's coming. To be present, I mean, I've missed so much. I've missed the small things. That gorgeous cup of tea that I just didn't appreciate. The 5 minutes extra with my kids. My dog, I'm not really there yet. I really don't like going out in minus 20 degrees in Sweden when it's snowing, but he gets my love. He gets my love. It's just awesome to see that everything that's been said throughout 47 years has been wrong. And I'm fine with that. I've said my pieces, I've said my sorries, I've said my, forgiveness to people. I haven't told them, but here I forgive them. And just walking this path and seeing the things around me is completely amazing. Noticing smells, noticing beautiful things. Being able to use the word beautiful.
Second chance, right? Almost like the world just looks completely different. I joke about it, but it is a true statement that when I sat down for that intensive, we had to put our phones away. So you check me and Michael were in this one room. We check our phones real quick before we go live. Put my phone down. I had one life. I had a life that I remember very vividly before I put that phone down. And after that first session, it was about 2.5 hours that we went through of him pointing me to this understanding that when I picked that phone up after being in that room 2.5 hours, the phone was different. There were people in that phone that didn't get a call back anymore. There were people on the phone who had got immediately forgiven. There were people on the phone who had been released from years of mental anguish I've been putting myself through about them. There were people I showed up to apologize to later that was like, what the hell are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, this was all in my mind. This was all in my thinking. Or I had people come apologize to me and I'm like the same thing. What are you talking about? you know, you just start the separate realities of how we all go. So I loved how you said, I did it in here, because that's the place that's going to take most root, in your heart.
I watched your sessions with Michael Neal, and I still have the image of you when I think it was at the end of day 1 or session 1, and you just went,
That was it. Yeah, that was it. It was, and that's what I love, that being shown. But sometimes I think it does what you were alluding to earlier, when people think that there's something to a big insight versus a little insight. And I'm not going to lie to you. The big insight to me feels just like the little insight, because it just reminds me of how much I don't know. Like, so even when it's small and subtle, it still has a ripple effect through my life that's like none other. You know, to drop a simple bias. I remember the bias I dropped on kids, thinking that the youth, and when I say kids, because my oldest daughter is 26, so 26 and below, thinking they weren't connected to wisdom, thinking they didn't know, thinking some adult needed to tell them what to do to. And when I woke up to that, it was like, I got cool with kids. It was that. Now, that wasn't the biggest so-called shift I made, but man, has it made a difference and enriched the relationships of the many youth that I do know. And that was subtle. It was real simple, real quick. So big insights, little insights, they all wake you up to, man, somewhere to play that you can enjoy. Yeah.
I see that I'm talking about kids. I have a 2.5-year-old, and he's my guru. So if I'm
exactly,
if I'm finding, you know, my thoughts or you know, I'm on the rumble strips,
yeah.
I just look at him, and yeah, it's like, oh yeah.
You know what's funny about that, Alistair, is if we really think about what you said at the beginning and what Greg mentioned to in his letter. I'm 45, so at this point, I'm really trying to forget everything I learned back into your sons. You know, I'm really trying to forget everything I've learned as an adult, honestly, and go back to the space of starting as a kid when it all just looked fun. Like, really, that's what I'm trying to do. Just unlearn all of this. Oh, you being that color means something different. Oh, you being a woman means something different. Oh, you being that religion means something different. Oh, you having that amount of money means something different. Yeah, when I unlearn all that, I show up to how many boxes here? 6, 7, 8. 8 kids in the playground. That's what I show up with. 8 people in the playground that all look different, from all different walks of life, but we finna have some fun in this sandbox. You know, I'm finna throw sand in Carol hair. I'm about to play a prank on Horatio. I'm about to bump Joe off the merry-go-round. Like, we just finna play like kids, you know? That sounds like more of a bully in the playground, but I'm just saying, y'all get what I'm saying, right? We're just showing up and really, really seeing the beauty in each and every one of us. And I just love that. Thank you for that share, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I have this story that when I was a kid, my mother would lose me. Like, you know, I have this joke where I used to live in Sherbrooke. They had a file on me because my mom would lose me because I'd be off exploring. You know, the cops would bring me back home. She'd be like, "What do you mean? She left? Where did she go? What do you mean?" And the cops would be bringing me back home, right? And I was a kid. I was like 2, 3 years old. 2, 3 years old. I was just walking. I was like, okay, telling my friend, let's go for a walk. And I remember I just loved, I loved everything. And then I grew up and I was told to be careful. And I was told that, you know, you shouldn't be doing this and don't talk to these kind of people and don't talk to these kind of people. And if somebody speaks like this, don't do that. And then I grew up to just fight my own nature. You know, I would literally be fighting against, oh, but I like this person, let me go talk. Oh, but then something would happen and then I would go into this thinking, and then all of a sudden I wound up, you know, being in my 30s and having no one around me, you know, wondering what the hell happened, you know. And then I'd had these glimpses of me showing up and just like I would just fall in love Like I would literally fall in love with people and be like, okay, no, you can't do that, Jasmine. You know, but now I'm back to, yeah, I get along with everybody and I love everybody. And it's fun to meet them. And it's just so great. And I'm free around it too.
Love that share, Jasmine, because that's what I was alluding to in my letter when I was faced with what my heart was telling me was not the right way, but a much better experience for me to have. But I was conflicted with all of those different things that you talked about. Well, wait, but the military taught me not to talk to these people from this country because they're terrorists or they're this or that, or my background told me not to talk to these people because of this and this and this and this. And it was just like, I was trying to hold on to them just because they were solid for me. I knew them, so even though I didn't like them, I still knew what that experience felt like. And I still knew what that roller coaster would be like. But that unleashed changing over to just fully showing up and giving your all and expressing love and respect for other people and things like that was just like so new. And there was no experiences that really kind of pointed to it for me. And it was just hard to transition at first until the first time I did it. And that was outing myself. And it was pretty much on that same intensive that Alistair was talking about, was when people start asking me questions and I was trying to bullshit them because I thought I had to know, because that's something I've been taught my whole life. You got to know the answer. As a quarterback, I had to know for the team. As a military leader, I had to know for the team. As a parent, I had to know for my kids. As the oldest sibling, I had to know for my siblings. It was always, I had to know what the answer was. And I remember it when I was faced with, you could tell them you don't know, or you can keep this lie up. And it was, I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm bullshitting. I don't know. Like I don't know. I just don't know. And the smiles and the clapping and the expression of love that I received from saying out loud, I don't know, was one of the biggest conflicting experiences I've ever had before in my life, because everybody always told me if I didn't know, it was going to be a problem. And so I've braced for this problem for, at this point, 40 years. The military said if I didn't know, people was going to die. And so I prided myself on bringing home every soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine I ever took with me. So then it still didn't work, with relieving me from it. But it was right then when I said I didn't know, and I saw the expression of love come from every person in that room. It was like, oh man, I'm way off. I got to just trust this thing. I got to submit and just go. I got to submit and just go. And I found that a lot of my turmoil has been just wrestling with me, not with the people. Literally, it's been wrestling with my thought of people, not people. Because if I don't come off disrespectful, if I come with the love and intent, people tend to love back no matter what level of life they come to. The so-called criminals in jail love to show up and laugh when class starts. And they're supposedly the baddest people in the world right now. But they love showing up for class. They even stopped me yesterday. It's like, hey, we got to do the meditation. Now, these are guys that are classified as thugs and this and gang members and that. And here they are talking about, hey, we got to do the meditation. Because they see what this understanding can do for their life. And I just love it. I just love it. Thank you for that share, Jasmine. And I did see that Carol wasn't in a place where she could talk. So love to you, Carol. Thank you so much. Hiroshi, if you had anything, sir, we would open the floor to you. And if not, we would just kind of, I'll close this up and send everybody into their day with some love and gratitude. But I see you're on mic, sir, so I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. I didn't wrote anything. It's my first time here. I didn't know what will happen here. I just find an email in my box and I said, I gotta be there. because I usually listen your podcast, and I remember you from Global Incubator the year before. I am from Argentina. I live here. I am now here. And my story with the principles is that 4 or 5 years ago, I found a video on YouTube of Michael Neal. I was searching another thing, a woman called Anita Murjani, and there's a video with Michael. So I remember, I think, who is this man? It's interesting. So I don't know how I began to look in the web, Google, and other things about the principles. So I found Sydney Banks, and I decided to start there because he's the beginner. So I read The Enlightened Gardener, and I love it too much. And when I was reading, I remember to feel a kind of peace inside of me. And then I read a book of Mara Gleason, One Thought, I think it's the title. And I saw a little difference between what Sydney said and what Mara said, but I understood that there are a very different aspects of this understanding. So I continue reading another ones like Bedinger, and I know Amy Johnson. A lot of I read and I began to listen to the podcast and watch videos and those things. And what I can say is that I find something there very deep that I can feel that from now it seems to have no end, that there are more and more doors to open. But now, from now, I also open a lot of doors, and those doors give me peace, love, happiness. What I understood from now is that, first of all, I don't have to believe all my brain said, because my brain, like the brain of everybody, I think, loves to talk and to talk and to talk. And it's like a radio open all day. And you have two options, to listen or not to listen. Before this, I used to listen every word my brain said. And I thought everything he said was true. But now I understand that it's not true. I don't mean he's a liar, because it's a very strong word, but maybe the thing is he talks and he really don't know about the things he talk. Sometimes he wants to protect me like everybody. So he tried to scare me to not to do some things to protect me. But most of the times that when I met the reality, I found that it wasn't so dangerous, like my brain told me before. And the second thing I understand is that thoughts are very different from the real reality, like I used to say. I like to say. It's like there is the outside when things happen, and here are the thoughts, and many times there are two worlds extremely different. So I catch myself very times hearing these thoughts, but I now understand and said to me, hey, this is not the reality. You live here. So this is transient and nothing very important. You don't have to pay attention, because if you pay attention to that, you misunderstand and think this is this, and it's not like that. So for those two things, as you can imagine, I am very grateful. I'm very happy. Thank you for giving me a place.
Thank you for being here and sharing that. And I love two things you said that were just beautiful. When you say you read everybody, and this is Robert's opinion. When you said that you read all of those things, got a good feeling, but they sounded different to you in a sense, like their words. I love that, because there's a quote Sid has, and it's been said many ways, but it's, if you're listening to a tape of me and you get the feeling, take the tape, throw it out of the window, and stick with the feeling. What I think, again, just Robert's opinion, is that what Sid was attempting to wake us up to was the space in which we should go out and express and show our love for life. And that's going to look different because each and every one of us has, or sound different because each and every one of us has different experiences. Like Sid couldn't tell a story about being on the battlefield in Iraq and a building exploding and you bust out laughing, like, because that's not his experience, it's mine. So when I tell the story, that may sound different than what he's saying, but we're talking about laughing, bringing us present, and then the things in front of you not being so scary. Like when, you know, when I've seen things blow up, it's kind of like a, whoa, shit. Like it's nothing else we can do about it. Like it's nothing we can do. And so if you don't settle into place, then you're done. And so what I think he was pointing to, and why I love all the many teachers that you say, because what I could do is, if I close my eyes like I saw many of us do, take some deep breaths, we're riding the same feeling. We're riding the same feeling. They may use stories that came through their life. You know, like I love Dr. Amy Johnson. Is it The Little Black Book? The Little, is that her book's title?
The Little School of Change.
The little, yes, exactly. Or Michael's Creating Impossible Inside Out Revolution, Dickens, like all of it. All of it is just a variety of ways of pointing to the same thing. And the second point was this story I've gotten told down a few, so I may have some details mixed up, but it was in one of Sid's books that the story was two different spiritual shamans were having a conversation. And somebody observed them laughing and being in a very good place together, even though their beliefs were totally opposite of one another. And they asked the shaman they knew, once the conversation or experience was over, it's like, how is it possible that you two believing, you know, whatever could coexist like that? And he said, we do believe different things, but we both know the truth. And I found that very, very interesting, because that would point to beliefs being more thinking than the knowing being the feeling. Like if I know you have, you said Argentina. What is the word for stadium in Argentina?
The word of?
Stadium, like arena where you play sports at. What would be that?
In Argentina, the word is cancha,
Okay.
estadio.
Catio. Okay, so you say, Rob, meet me at the Catio. I'm like, Roche, I don't know what the hell the Catio is, bro, but I'm gonna go down here to the stadium and watch the game. And you're like, no, the Catio. And I'm like, no, the stadium. And now we're arguing about, I was like, man, I don't mess with that Hiroshi guy because he always talking about some damn Catio. What the heck? Like, just say stadium. And then we arrive there and realize, oh, we're talking about the same thing. The words we use, because of where we are environmentally, it's different. But we're talking about the same thing. And if I would have listened enough, I would have known that. If I would have just slowed down rather than trying to correct your term and make it my term, if I would have just slowed down enough to hear your experience, I would have known we were talking about the same thing. And so that's what I love in your share. Just, seeing, the beauty in everything again, the beauty in everything. So thank you for that share. And we will have a volume 3. I hope I pop up in your email again. We will have a volume 3. And I would love to have you come and read a letter if you saw fit and felt fit to do so. But yeah, it's just this, what we're doing here. Starting our days, or starting my day off, ending some days for sure, on just a place of gratitude and love, and see what that does for us. See how that does when we show up in whatever we show up. And so I'll say this to you before I leave. I'm American, but I'm born in the South. So even I have an accent when I speak from English. So trust me, if you could tell all your students, listen, you don't have to worry about your accent. There's an American who got an accent that people can't understand him either. So no problem, like it's fine. Like it's just a part of people go, oh, you from the South? I go, yeah. Now it used to bother me. It used to make me feel like I needed to articulate my words better. It used to make me feel like I should do something different until it did. Until it went, yeah, I'm from the South. So instead of going to, you may hear me say I'm finna. It's just a cultural slang term, which means I'm about to, but I'm saying I'm finna go to the store. Well, in my culture, that means, oh, he is about to go to the store. We get it. It's a shorthand. So it, when I realize, oh, to have an accent doesn't mean anything about me as a person. Cool. I just got an accent. So yeah, but I just thought about it earlier when I saw your face again. Yeah, when I saw your face again. I just have an accent. That's all. So I thank you all so much. I'm going to end the recording, but I want to show you all something afterwards, and I want to show it to you because I don't own the rights to it, so I don't want to put it on the recording. But for those who are listening, I love you. Thank you so much, and you'll get the information on the next Letters to See It, Volume 3, which will be in March. And have the day you deserve. So let me pause this real quick.